episode of From the Horse's Mouth, where today I'm sitting with Catherine Marshall, the woman behind some of the most amazing wines you'll ever try.
Wow.
Catherine, thank you so much for having me this morning, and I'm really looking forward to trying this 2012 Pinot Noir.
Thanks, Gareth.
So let's jump straight into it. So will you just let everybody know a little bit more about yourself, where you've produced wine this far, and what actually got you into winemaking in the first place?
Sure, Gareth. If you've got like a year, then I can tell you the whole story, but I'll give you the abridged version. Well, it really started way back in 1996. I was still a very green rookie winemaker back in the day. And you also have to remember that the landscape for wine in those days is very different to what it is today. Given that we were making wine under an apartheid curtain, where wine was really not seen as an important commodity. And there was really very little going on. Only your big co-ops, and KWV was very much in the front. And of course you had smaller wineries like Simonsich, Delheim, Meerlust. Those were the vanguard really for wine. So that was really what I was exposed to when I was studying. And when I was at university, of course you end up partying quite a lot as a student. So we had the very famous De Akker, which is still going, as you know. And I have spent many nights there socializing, as you would, with Tassenberg.
Oh, nice.
So that was really where I kind of got the taste for wine, I would say. And then as I was going on studying my degree in English and physical education, I was actually going to coach sport. That was my thing. That's my other hobby, is sport.
It explains these guns now.
I was working at various wine farms to pay my way, as a student does. And that's where I started getting really interested in wine. And then I did the Cape Wine Academy courses, which started up when I was still very much a rookie. And there was one person there called Alan Mullins, a very famous man. Yeah. And he was really the one at fault to get me really interested in wine. And so I decided, once I'd finished studying and worked for 2 years, that I wanted to study wine. But remember, we're still behind the apartheid curtain. Very, very patriarchal society we're dealing with. And when the people that I was working with knew that I wanted to go and study winemaking, they did everything to try and change my mind. And I was so steadfast in what I wanted to do. And it was a case of, well, if I didn't get into Elgin, then I would go and travel abroad and cut my teeth on winemaking in various wineries around the world. And I did get in. And there were very, very few women back in the day that were making wine. So we were very much pioneers. For sure, that's awesome. I would say I would be the second field of people making wine. There were about 2 or 3 just before me that had studied at Elgin. So it was a very difficult time for me because I was much older than my peers, and I came from a university study, so I was quite advanced in terms of my interface with academic work. And so I came and did this diploma, and then I worked my apprenticeship at Blauwklippen, but then I realized I really needed to get exposure. I'm still behind the Iron Curtain.
The Iron Curtain, like that.
So then I traveled to the United States and
Oregon, right?
Yeah, no. Before that, I worked in Sonoma County.
Oh, cool.
At a very fancy, schwancy place called Ferrari Carano, owned by Italian family, and they owned a huge gambling joint in Reno. So there was lots of money. So I got exposed to this schwanky place. Literally gold taps and marble counters. But what was really cool was that I got to work with equipment that was really high tech that I hadn't seen here in South Africa. So that really, really was a fantastic way of cutting my teeth and understanding how the analysis of wine looks and how good quality wine should look, and get all those parameters right. And then fortuitously I managed to go and work in France straight after that. So I did 2 vintages, one in South Africa and then one overseas, because we have opposite harvest times because of our weather, of course. So I was very, very fortunate to go and work with Hubert de Board at Chateau Angelus. Quite a few South Africans have worked there before, so it was a great reference for me to work in a place that was just, well, at that time was like ahead of its time in terms of making great Merlot and Cab Franc, because we had famous consultants like Michel Rolland, who just arrived there.
Yeah.
And he just completely revamped the whole order of things.
Yeah, that's great.
And he wasn't, I wouldn't say popular, but he was a kind of person that he knew that this is how he wanted to take Bordeaux varieties forward. So I was exposed to modern techniques with an old kind of traditional way of making wine. And so Hubert was very kind of modern thinking. So I got exposed to incredible winemaking techniques there. And then they gave me the opportunity to work at one of their very, very old wineries just up the road called Chateau de France, which has its own appellation. And there I just ran the whole gig myself with another French lady. And very, very old. It was 11th century. Now you've got to understand. You walk into a place, there's a few concrete tanks, an old Vaseline press that you had to kickstart it to get the thing going. No floors, so you couldn't go upstairs. You could just hang out at the bottom. But that for me was really the turning point for winemaking, because there I'd had in my head how analysis should look from the US, very modern technology, but then I'm thrown into this. There wasn't even a pH meter. There wasn't anything that I couldn't see what the analysis looked like. But really that for me changed the game in how I look at wines in their juice phase all the way through, based on smell and based on taste, and the way it looks and how the vines look. And so today I use both of those paradigms to offset how I'm going to make my wines.
I can imagine that really helps you have a connection to the product that you're working with.
Exactly.
Very hands-on and relying on that fruit to be the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to a lot of young folk who ask me about wanting to make wine, and I say, please be mindful of your own senses, of your own evaluation protocols, because your eyes, nose and throat are really the things that are going to guide you into great winemaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can use your analysis at the lab as a backup, but really, we are so disconnected from nature these days.
100%.
In all ways. And if we can just tune in and be reconnected with our soils and what the plant looks like and how it tastes, that's all you need. Those are the tools that are vital.
For sure.
So
that was actually something that I wanted to speak to you about, was that for as long as I've been involved in the wine industry, I've always been well aware of the quality that's associated with Catherine Marshall wines, and in specific the Pinot Noir. So I know that you've spent some time in Oregon as well as Burgundy, and was it in these areas that you found this love for the varietal?
Well, a lot of people ask me why Pinot Noir, and in my earlier days, I didn't actually know why. I didn't understand the story and didn't understand why I chose Pinot. It was just an innate thing. When I first sipped Pinot down at Hamilton Russell, which I have to tell you, that was 1985.
Wow.
I bought it for 15 Rand a bottle. That's
Yes.
how, and it broke my piggy bank. But I realized that there was something in that wine. There was something in Pinot Noir that moved me, although I was not conscious of it at the time. There was just something in it that I thought, wow, this is interesting. And I think it's also a little bit about my personality. I suppose I'm a little contrarian. I'm a little bit of a rebel. I've been like that since I was at school. Always in trouble, by the way.
You should
always talking and never shutting up. So I was always in trouble.
You should show the folks your shoes that you've got on.
Oh. I didn't know you noticed.
Yeah. Check out these Vans. They're styling.
These are my Blancs, man. These are my Blancs.
That's so legit.
So I guess a part of that extreme was in my frame of mind at the time. But I think as I progressed with Pinot Noir, and I have to tell you, when we started making Pinot Noir in 1997 was my first vintage, completely terrible wine. It really was. I bought from vineyards that were awful, they weren't farmed properly, and it was planted to BK5, which is the Champagne clone, the Swiss clone. Which you could never get the right color. It browned very easily. It was so insipid, but it wasn't meant to make Pinot. They brought it into South Africa to make a Method Capacity or Chamat or whatever style of champagne or sparkling wine. But I was so hell-bent that I wanted to put my stamp on Pinot Noir, even back in those days, even working with terrible vineyards and grapes that were not great. Because remember, I was a woman, I was new to the game, I was a rookie, so I was always the runt. So when the guys in front of me went to get the best section of the block, I always got the shitty part at the back. But you know, although I was upset at the time and all guns blazing, quietly, it was really, really good for me to hone my skills on grapes that weren't great. Because eventually, after the years that went by, when I started finding really great growers in Elgin, 2004, by the way, before anybody else was in there, I was there. And I realized then that how to make Pinot and how to look for the sites, and doing a lot of research, doing a lot of traveling, tasting a lot of wine back in the day, and working with great people in Oregon and going to Burgundy, getting a sense of what this wine's going to look like, and applying those skills to a South African context. It's very important to remember that we are South African, that we have a great story to tell, and don't let any Burgundian or any Oregonian or any New Zealander tell you that we are second rate, because we're not. We are seriously making world-class wines, and I'm so grateful that I had my foot in the pre-apartheid when the curtain came down and after, so that I could tell the stories of what it was like then and what it's like to be now, and be part of that journey, to be part of that great movement called Pinot Noir in South Africa.
Now that you mentioned that, that was one of the questions that I wanted to bring up today was, you know, you've been producing wines now for just over 25 years. And I mean, I wanted to ask you, as a female winemaker, what was the main challenge when you first started out?
There wasn't, look, there were challenges, but I never chose to hang my hat on those issues.
For sure.
There was some underlying stuff, but I chose to ignore it. And I hung out with guys and in the industry and women who were not judging me as a woman winemaker. They were judging me based on
your skill
my
set.
wines.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how I want to be judged. I never entered any woman winemaking competitions because I didn't feel that that would justify the great men who have helped me so much in this industry to get to where I am right now.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
I didn't want to chuck them out of the basket. They're very much part of my journey. So I didn't want to polarize me being a woman and my friends being male. That's just nonsense.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So yes, it was tough. It still is tough.
Yeah.
But we've got an amazing amount of women making great wines.
Sure, 100%.
And I'm so happy about that, to see that. It's really, really cool.
And I'm sure a lot of them would have looked up to you as you know, for inspiration and to see how far you've come. I'm sure that's kind of really helped them along their journeys too.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I don't want to go and have big pats on the back all the time, but really, I've had incredible mentors. You know, the great Maida Langersong of Pichon Langeville, Pichon Lalande. She's still one of my absolute heroes, and she's alive and kicking and running Glen Ellie.
For sure.
90-year-old grand dame. And then there was Janie Muller, who I thought she was insanely brilliant at winemaking. I don't think she got the credit really that I think she would have got if she was here around today. She was involved in a bad accident, but I used to hang around her winery in Tilbach, which I tell you was 6 tall poles, hay bales on top of a zinc roof, and 3 conked off tanks that fell off a truck. And that's how she made awesome wines. You know, she was great. And some of the best Shirazes that she made at Liefland. Amazing woman. So I've had my girls too. You know?
So you mentioned Elgin. So this is something I wanted to bring up, was that all the grapes that you're using for the production of these wines of yours coming from Elgin. I wanted to know, what is it about Elgin that shakes your soul up?
I think because we are heading into a very serious climate issue. That's the first thing. And you know, I'm always one of those people that wants to swim in ponds where there are not a lot of people swimming in. Okay. So back in the day in 2004, it was still seen as a predominantly export apple area. But the great vineyards of Port Kluwer, they were already doing stuff with KWV in 1962. So they had quite an inroad in there, although I didn't really know them at the time. There was a lovely family who had just started planting vineyards called the Downs family of Shannon. And I happened to meet up with James, and I was saying, look, I'm looking for grapes, and I'm really interested in this cool climate thing that you guys do. He said, well, come up. I've just planted, and you can see if you want some grapes. Because back in the day, then it was a lot easier than it is now to get Elgin fruit. Because nobody really was looking at Elgin back in the day. They were still making their great Stellenbosch cabs.
Yeah.
You know. But that said, I started forging a great relationship with James, and I learned so much in terms of viticulture, because I think he's one of the best viticultural hands-on people in South Africa right now. And I was super happy to have worked with him for 16 years.
Yes,
really
quite a
happy.
while.
And I ended up making a bit of wine for him as
Okay.
well. So that's how it ended up in Elgin. And then I made my first batch of Pinot, which I wasn't that excited about. And there were about 6 bins standing in the corner. And I happened to say to my partner then, who was also one of the triumvirates in our shareholding in the business. And I said, Pete, what do I do with this wine? I don't know if we're going to drink this thing. It's very Burgundian. It's very, it's 13%. People in South Africa are not used to 13. They want their 14, 15s. He said, well, take it to Alan Mullins, your great friend Alan, who was a buyer for Woolworths.
Okay.
And he was one of my coaches at Cape Wine Academy, as I mentioned. So I pitched it, and I said, here, I'll taste it, see what you think. Nervous as hell. And he phoned me up the next day and said, yeah, so how much have you got? So I said, I can't remember, about 2,000 bottles. He said, all right, we'll take it. And that was my first relationship with Woolies. Since then, we've still been in partnership.
That's beautiful.
From 2004, and that was with Elgin Pinot.
Yes.
So that's kind of how that started. And then, since then, I've seen the merit of cool climate and how it keeps the wine fresh, bright, and clean.
And there's a lot of investment in that area now. It's like the place to be.
It's a place to be, exactly. So much so that a lot of people from Stellenbosch and the Switzerland are buying from that side.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Takara for just over 7 years, and they own
They've got vineyards.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
As far as I know, the story goes that Mr. Ferreira went to have lunch with Mr. Gunn.
Of course.
And then after that lunch, she left with 20 hectares.
That's right. I've heard that story. It's a great property too, though.
Yeah, for sure. It's beautiful at that side.
Yeah, so that's how that started.
So you already mentioned as well that everything pretty much started from 1996. So in 1996, you started a 3-barrel barefoot stomping event, which led to you starting a micro winery. So it's clearly been quite a hectic journey, to date. But I wanted to know, do you still hold that traditional event, and is it open to the public?
It's something I did for. I think we did 5 events at various locations. One of them was here, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Because I used to make wine here 20 years ago.
Yes,
so we did a foot stomp here. But it is so time consuming. It's so difficult. And my business has grown so much now that I just don't have time.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
It is. And I'm looking for somebody that I could outsource it to, that they could do all the logistic management and handle it. Because it is such fun.
Yeah.
It really, really is such fun. It's traditional. It brings people back to the tactileness of how you make grapes.
For sure.
You're standing in it. You're stomping in it. You're smelling it. You're tasting it. You're eating the skins. It's all about that.
Yeah.
And I've kept that in mind when I make my wines. There are batches that I still make in those open top fermenters. I make those small batches because I think it's so important to be invested in what you're doing and not just put a switch on and let the machines take over.
Yeah, again, it brings you closer to the product. And I just wanted to remind everybody out there that the foot stomping is not what brings out those jammy flavors in the wine.
Exactly. In fact, we used to make people wash their feet first, and some girls used to come and nail polish their toes very prettily. Definitely no jamminess in our wines. No, not allowed.
So Catherine, the labels of your wines, I'd say that they're beautifully obscure. So can you explain the ladies or the packaging in general?
Well, it was all very organic. And when I made my first label, I wish the audience could see them up on the shelf.
Oh, no, we'll show them.
All.
Yeah.
You can see the one, that white one on the left was the one that we did through our computer.
Okay.
Really awful. It was a Matisse painting of dancers, and we thought, that would be cool. That's what we did. We danced on our grapes. But then, fortuitously, there was a meeting of a person who lives in Riebeek Kasteel.
Okay.
Her name is Hanneke de Klerk. And she was looking to paint for Riebeek Cellars. And I said, hang on, can I have a chat to you? Because I'd just been reading about Houghton Rothschild. And there they, in Bordeaux, they have a series of paintings on their labels. And every year it's a famous artist like Picasso, Matisse, Chagall, all of these famous guys. And they would have a painting on their labels. I thought, wow, wow, that's so cool. Because back in the day, all we had was Cape Dutch homesteads in these brown and beige and cream colours.
Yeah,
so
and
boring.
They're still
Such a yawn. Sorry guys, you've got those labels. But I think when you're a new kid on the block, you need something that's going to draw your attention to the labels. So when Hanneke came and said, okay, I'll paint for you and then I won't paint for Riebeck Sellers. Sorry, Riebeck Sellers. I said, fantastic, because that's what I want. I don't want anybody else to have your labels. Otherwise, it gets diluted. So now I trade her in wine for copyright.
Good.
And we have all the paintings, which you see behind me. And that was a fantastic thing. We used to start off with a different label for each vintage. It got so confusing. So over time, we said, right, let's find the label that best describes the wine. So the clay soil has got a more brooding painting, and then the sandstone has a more sort of upbeat, lighter looking lady, should I say. And so that's how that was born. And we're still friends. We still do the swap every year. And when she has her art exhibitions, all of my wines are on the table, which is great. I love trading. I think it's a fantastic way to do things. So that's the story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I always say to people, especially when it comes to retail, the one thing you need to be able to sell is your packaging.
Well, the thing is, if you, back in the day, the next label you can see with the turquoise background and the red dress. It was our first label for her, and it looked exactly like that. So when people walked in, they said, "Wow, what's that?" And they go straight to that label, and they said, "This is interesting." In it goes.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's how we got carte blanche. And we got top billing.
Wow.
So we had all of these people, because back in the day, foot stomping and these labels were really trendy.
Yeah, mind blowing.
Wow. Not so much now. But that was also how I got my brand known. So it was all very organic. Remember, I was such a rookie. I had no idea what I was doing back in the day. It was all very new landscape for me.
And also, the case seems to be is that people sometimes, or some producers don't seem confident on the product that's on the inside of the bottle, so they need to kind of sell people on the outside. But then the two don't correlate. But in this case, the labels grab your attention and the wine is even better.
Well, that's very, very, very true thing you say. You can't have it looking good and then there's nothing there. It's like when you meet a beautiful woman and you start talking to her and there's like, okay, boring. So I think that both have to work together very, very carefully.
So the next thing I wanted to know, what's the craziest thing you've ever had to endure during a harvest period? There's probably quite a few crazy events.
I have to try and rank them. I have to really think about that because there are many. Making wine in an apple packing shed with no equipment. And I got 5 stars for that.
Hey, there we go.
I'm only telling everybody that now. Used to put that under wraps, but I'm quite proud of that because there again, it's all about hands-on.
For sure.
Being involved with the wine, and it would have to be a great vintage. So
that's
cool. But last year, or in fact this vintage was probably very tough for Riesling, which is a new kid on the block for me. We had 100 ml drop of rain bombed onto our vineyard just as we were supposed to harvest. And I also happened to pick up a very weird ear infection, so I couldn't stand up. I was dizzy as hell. So I was trying to make Riesling, which was so full of rot, with my head spinning around, looking at these grapes didn't help either. So things like that, but you just got to endure. It's like my favorite athlete of all time is the great Rafa Nadal. And I read his stories and the amount of pain that boy endures. To get through a game and actually make it.
For sure, especially now. He's a little bit older, but he's still just teaching those youngsters a lesson.
He's my inspiration. You got to really go through the pain, and you got to make it happen if you want to truly make this a great wine.
So you were speaking about all that rain. Today is quite it's supposed to be summer, right? But this weather is obviously not welcomed by winemakers at this time of.
Look, I was in my vineyards. I'm also bringing some wine in from Himmel and Honor Ridge now, and I was in there yesterday. And there's a bit of issue with downy mildew, and we deal with that every single year because you have rain and you have warm, so you have high incidence of humidity, and that's a scourge for mildew.
For sure.
So the guys are going to be on it all the time. So it's a bit scary now with that kind of weather. But we're pea berry size now. We're still okay if you've done your spraying properly for downy mildew. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the vineyards are bombing. They just all this rain and heat. The foliage is really, really big. But it's great.
Yeah,
I mean, we can deal with it perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. Like Guy said to me as well. He said to me, as winemakers, it's not the first time you've experienced it, and it won't be the last.
No.
So
exactly, he's right there. Absolutely.
It's about being resilient as a winemaker.
It's just you've got lemons, you've got to make lemonade. So if you've got this kind of growth, you've got to make sure your team are in there doing all the necessary canopy management.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you have quite a beautiful setup here.
Thank you.
I don't know how long you've been here, but can you maybe just let us know exactly what the opening hours are so people can come and taste these amazing wines?
Okay. Well, our tasting room, we opened last year, February, and I had my friend from Australia who was here for a few months, and he ran the show for me. But we didn't have it up and running. We just thought we'd open it up and see what we'd have. He had nothing to do, so he said, right. And that was really cool because that got people in here, and I was busy with harvest. And then we had to shut it because of COVID, 26th of March. It was a nightmare. So we've gone with fits and starts of open and close, open and close. And in August this year, we decided that we were going to go for it. So we employed a really wonderful person who's our tasting room ambassador, Mark.
Yeah.
And we decided to revamp. So we were doing all the painting and cleaning and putting shelves up and making it more ours.
Yeah, for sure.
So we open our cellar at the moment from 10:30 to 4:30 on a Friday to Sunday. Okay. But we will be opening up a little bit longer over the period, the festive season. Yep. So we'll be open as of the 6th of December, all day.
Okay, nice.
Till 4:30.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because the first time, I mean, obviously I've always known about the wines, but I was on my way, or my girlfriend and I were on our way to go taste at another producer.
Right.
And we drove past and we saw Home to Catherine Marshall wines. We're like, no way, okay, we're turning around and we're going to pop in here. That's
so wonderful. It's so wonderful.
Yeah. And I mean, it helps that I stay just down the road, so I need to actually be here more often.
Wonderful. Yeah, and we also offer, we in collaboration with Delwood Cheese.
Yes, I saw over there.
Amazing international awards, and their cheese is ridiculously good. Honestly, I can't believe how far we've come from that horrible waxy cheddar and Gouda that we used to have into like internationally acclaimed cheese, which we offer now. So we have small little platters with 5 different Delwood cheeses with the 5 different wines, and you can come and taste that. And then we also have cheese platters, which are bigger, and we can put a spread of cheese. We are hoping down the line, as it becomes more popular and we open up more, COVID's gone, goodbye, that we can open a deli, because that's our plan.
Oh, nice.
So we have a deli fridge, and we'll have charcuterie boards and all of that going. But right now it's cheese only.
and are people able to actually come here and just purchase a bottle and sit on the property and drink?
Yes, of course you can.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
That's the best thing to do in the
yes,
and
yes.
With this view, we'll show the folks as well, but this is one crazy view.
I know, it looks it's like a little bit of Provence here.
It is.
With all the lavender fields,
The lavender, what's the story behind the lavender?
Well, when I was working here back in the day, that used to be a Sauvignon Blanc block, which produced beautiful Sauvignon Blanc, by the way, I hope you know. And when I got back here 20 years later, I saw the lavender fields, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. My block's gone, but wow, beautiful. And what is planted here is a strain of French lavender.
Okay.
But it doesn't, unfortunately, give us the oil. They didn't plant the right strain. And then we decided to see if Woolies would be interested in us taking bunches of it, because it's so beautiful when it's purple. Yeah. The whole thing is just purple.
Yeah, it looks beautiful now.
Yeah, but the stalks have to be, I think, 30 centimeters plus, and these are too short.
Okay.
So now what we have here are hives.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And let me tell you, we have the most delicious honey. It is probably the best honey. And I used to work next door when I was in Elgin to honey guys. Okay. So I've really got an inroad of different sorts of honey. And this, my friend, is next level.
Is the honey for sale over here?
Yes, it is. We've got the jars on the
shelf. Yeah, I see. Okay, I'll have to get some before I go.
Absolutely. Absolutely delicious. So I'm also making little salts that are made from our Pinot. Okay. But that's the guy's busy curing that in his amphora, because we also do wine in amphora.
Yeah. I've actually seen them.
Yes, the Chenin comes from the amphora. Now we're doing a little bit of salt cured in that.
Okay, nice. Wow.
And so we're also going to bring that out quite soon. Yeah.
So I wanted to know, when it comes to the production of your uniquely crafted wines, what's your ethos?
I think it is to have, first of all, to have fun with what you're doing, otherwise forget it. But you have to have good intention when you're doing that.
Sure.
Intent must be solid and must be really up there. But always have fun doing it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very, very important.
For sure. I've always said that as well, you know, when I do trainings and whatnot, I've always told the folks, like, don't be if it's just a job. You need to feel something. This culture is a culture that needs to be, you know,
Because let me
respected
tell you,
and
it
understood.
is, and it is tough.
It is
It's hard. Don't let anybody fool you that this is romantic. This is the romance part.
Yeah,
This is where we are when we're sitting down and sharing the wine.
Yeah.
But I think what I need to also tell you is that your wine is only as good as your team.
Okay.
I have the most awesome team, best team I've ever had in all the years that I've been making wine. And that is important. And as I've had to learn how to be a leader, I'm a bit of a doer. I'm not much of a leader.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to become one. But if you work with your team and you have great loyalty, you can teach them anything.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have found the people that work with me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say for me, with me, are just smart.
Yeah,
people.
that's great.
Really, really happy. Yeah.
So, Catherine, if you had any advice to give to the folks out there who are just starting out with their appreciation of wine, what would it be?
Just drink as much as you can.
That's it.
Just check it all out and see what you like. And then drink some more of that.
That's excellent advice, especially knowing that the weekend is just around the corner.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And then there's just one last question I want to ask. The 2012 of year, how do you think the wine is presenting itself to us this afternoon after such a long period of time?
Well, you see, the great thing about Pinot is that it has naturally high acidity and it has low pHs, especially from cool climate. And that is very, very important for shelf life on a wine. And also, when I started studying a little bit about, because I had to give a few papers back in the day when we were doing master classes at Hamilton Russell, I did a paper on tannin structure of Pinot Noir. And Pinot generally has higher compounds of catechin and epicatechin. Now that's just like technical words for tannins that come from seeds and skins. And because we have high levels of that, it also helps with shelf life in the wine. Obviously, it depends on how you keep it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're going to put the wine next to your stove, then clearly it's not going to last because you don't want it cooking. So, and if you've got good closures, and luckily for me, the 2012, much better than what we used to have. My God, I've been tasting through a lot of my library stock, and the corks that we were presented with back in the day were awful. So yes, good closures, good storage. Pinot can give you easy 10 years.
Yeah, this one to me is really presenting itself incredibly well. I mean, like I said, the first thing when you pop the cork, I said this wine is so pronounced.
Yeah.
I mean, I smelt it when I was standing behind it.
I know.
And that savory element about it is, it's great. Eh? This one is pleasing my palate like you can't believe.
It's got a bit of that sort of fennel bulb, Dutch licorice
absolutely.
kind of character when I smell it.
Sure.
It definitely, you do need to drink this up now, I would say.
It's like velvet on the
Yeah,
palate,
it
to
is.
be
No,
honest.
the tannins are gorgeous. They're sublime.
Yes.
And with your best meal, like, I don't know, duck, you know, the classic French.
And it's nearly lunchtime now.
I know.
I think you're getting hungry.
Yeah. Definitely that kind of classic food.
Yeah.
Really good.
But Catherine, I just wanted to say thanks for your time. Folks, this will bring us to the conclusion of today's tasting. And now you've heard it straight from the horse's mouth. But I just wanted to let you know that Catherine is very generous enough to be sponsoring one of these bottles, which will be going into the mixed case of 6, sorry. Let's not get you too excited out there. So it's a mixed case of 6, which you can get your hands on. All you have to do is make a small contribution towards the educational campaign. So all these donations are going towards my enrollment for the diploma in wines through WSET.
Wonderful. You better do well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so all you have to do is just scan the QR code over here, or you can follow the link in the description, and you'll find all the information that you need. But before we love and leave you, we'd like to remind you that there's no standard when it comes to your enjoyment for wine. And remember, be kind.
And drink good wine.
Cheers.
Cheers.